everyone. Thank y'all for tuning in to another episode here at the Portcast. Today we're here at a beautiful bookstore located downtown Bridgeport. Before we get into the story of this lovely bookstore, we do have two special guests with us today. Do you mind introducing yourself and giving the viewers some background of where you're from and where you grew up?
Hi, my name is Karen Smith. I'm the co-owner of Kindred Thoughts bookstore, and thank you for having us. I was born here in Bridgeport, grew up primarily on the South End, but was also raised in Southern California.
Hi, my name is Derek Tompkins. I also grew up in Bridgeport. I was lifelong resident outside of going to school and other things I've done. I mainly stayed in the Bridgeport area. My family is pretty much based here.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. So naturally, you have to have a love for books to do something like this. Where did the love of books come from?
So my love of books came really just kind of being a girl amongst a bunch of guys in the family and in the community, and just not always wanting to hang out with them or being welcomed by them. I would find myself reading a book, and then that kind of continued in different stages and places in life. Again, growing up in Southern California, Orange County, I was sometimes very often the only black in my classroom, so not a lot of opportunities to kind of play with other kids. So I found myself actually reading my school books, whereas a lot of folks, wouldn't do that. And similarly at work. So I've always just had a love of reading. And I would say just kind of throughout life, there are those books that I am very fond of that I'll even go back and reread. So some books I have read more than once just to get a different perspective and just to kind of renew my love for that particular book.
Well, and for me, I guess reading started early just because I was always a kid with a lot of curiosity. So, I'm the guy, you bought a toy, it was going to be taken apart and tried to put back together. Usually didn't work. But reading I found to be a great way to escape and to find other things that I just couldn't find locally. Our library, I grew up on the east end of Bridgeport, so the east end branch of the library was big in my life. I went to Lincoln School and I seen this building across the street, once we were introduced to it, it became like home. It was a place where you could go and explore. So.
And the name of your bookstore, how did that come about?
That's your baby.
So there is a book by the late great author, Octavia Butler. It's called Kindred. And if folks have Hulu, they can find Kindred is now a television series. But Kindred is about a story of a black woman who gets transported back to the antebellum South, where she has to save this white young man, and he finds himself in trouble quite often, and there's a reason why she has to save him. I don't want to spoil the story for those that may want to read the story, but that's one of the books that I've read a few times, and I had grown very fond of Octavia Butler as an author. And so just thinking about the word kindred means family, and so the books here, we are a black bookstore, and we have our community in mind when we choose the books that we add to our shelves. And so we like to think of kinfolk and kindred, and so it's a derivative of that.
And why did you feel that there was a need for a bookstore here in the community?
We're in the largest city in Connecticut, and it didn't have a bookstore, a full-service bookstore. My experiences going to the Barnes & Noble, looking for the authors I like, I used to have to order my books. Well, this is the chance to change that. And so opening a bookstore to us meant we get to bring something to our community that was lacking, and also bring books that people can identify with the authors and give a different perspective. Now, we're a full-service bookstore. We order and we could get anything. We're not exclusive, but I think being and most independent bookstores specialize in some areas. This is our area of specialty, is authors of the African diaspora. Now, growing up as a kid, my mother read this book called Snowy Day. It was the first time there was a book with a black main character. It's a great story. because a lot of times we get caught up in who's the book about. You hear a lot of these, if someone's playing a role that's typically given to someone not of color, there's an outcry. Well, this book has a great story, and it was called Snowy Day. It's written by a white man, but it was the first book that was written with a main character that looked like me and my family, and it made a difference. So that's why I think stores like this and communities like this make a difference.
Okay. Would you say that there is a different experience for someone who would visit a local bookstore versus a library? And I'm not saying one is better than the other one, but in terms of the experience, is there a difference?
I would say there's a big difference, and I'm a true believer in libraries. I think they are definitely have a very important place in our society, because not everyone can buy a book. Today, average hardcover book is almost $30. But I do say for people that love reading and love books, sometimes to have your own, because I, as a reader, I get intimate with my book. Not to sound crazy, but when I turn my pages, and it's something to me. And I think libraries give those that don't have a chance, like me when I was a kid, to go someplace and explore. It also gives you some quiet time. It gives you time to spend with self as you read or explore in those spaces. But when you come into Kindred Thoughts, you're probably going to be greeted with some conversation, because that's one thing we do offer, is we're gonna have a conversation. And I've had people come in that didn't think this was their cup of tea because of our theme, but they were able to find that, oh, this is different because we had a conversation. There's always a common ground. We don't have to agree on everything. There's always a common ground.
And I see that you guys have developed partnerships with local businesses, churches, and educational institutions, and you guys are getting tons of national and local media coverage. How does that feel to be able to get so much attention in such a short amount of time? To me, that says that you guys are doing something great here.
I will say that the attention has helped us. I'm definitely appreciative of those that reached out and wanted to include us in their stories. But I think the big thing is us reaching out to the community, because that's one thing I think we both believe is, if the community don't find us viable, then we're not going to be around. So being community minded in everything we do is important. Of course, we want to sell books, but we also offer other programming, like during the Christmas holidays, we had Dr. Charles Morgan come in, and what he did was told them how to cope, gave some coping techniques for dealing with the holiday stresses. You know, we do other things that don't necessarily mean you got to buy a book. And we do it for the community, because again, it's about community for us, I think, is the big one.
But as Derek said, it is really about community. Selling books is great. It pays the rent, but we are really here for the community. Again, and I'll say it over and over, we call them kinfolk. You'll see it in our posts if you follow us on social media, and it's just our friendly way of greeting and just saying, hey, we're here. We have every month on the fourth Saturday of the month, we have story time for the children. We also have, depending upon the story that is read, some sort of craft activity for them to participate in. And that's been going very well. And I think we have just as much fun, especially when it comes to craft time, as the children do. It's a great way for parents to get involved as well, because the age group is such where the parents, obviously have to bring the children in. So again, we know things are offered elsewhere, the public library and such, but again, it's just something else to offer the community. And then Derek mentioned it, but we have the Reading the Classics series, and that's where we look at the great canon of work, at some of the authors authors that I had previously mentioned, but we've read James Baldwin's The Fire Next Time. We have read Beloved. We have The Invisible Man coming up in May, and Their Eyes Were Watching God in August, and that'll conclude 1 year because we do that series once a quarter. With that, I can tell you we've had a very diverse group of people attend, different ages, different racial backgrounds, all come in with their own understanding of what they've read, and again, a moderator to help break down, the key concepts. We'll have other folk come in just to talk about different topics. We have someone coming in next month talking about self-care. We want to get beyond the hashtag of just, I took a bubble bath and, oh, I did some self-care, but what does it actually mean? What's the benefits to yourself and to your body and to your overall health? We have someone else coming in May that's going to speak about the skin. What's the environmental effects on the skin? As we're aging, our skin changes. As people of color, we have to protect our skin. Melanin, and having melanin just isn't enough. So again, we want to be able to bring in people that are going to help us with our understanding. And again, great to sell a book, and we have books that speak to all of those topics, but we want to help you be your best you so you can be better for yourself, for your family, and for your community.
Okay, one last question before we wrap up this interview. When you look at your business, which is a bookstore, do you look at it as just selling books, or do you look at it as promoting, selling education, emotions, and feelings?
Well, the reason we're laughing, our tagline in the beginning was going to be knowledge peddlers.
But we were told no. Yeah.
That was not a good idea. But I tell you, and I'm going to speak from my perspective, I see owning a bookstore as a breathing, living type entity. It's something that's constantly growing. It has tentacles that go in areas I didn't even think we would be going. We started out thinking we'll get a cafe and we'll just be thinking really inside this box, when actually the boundaries of that box have been blown away because what we see, the potential of it.
Mm-hmm. And I'll say it is the latter. We see it as all of those things that you mentioned, but I want to give an example. Yesterday afternoon, we had 3 generations come through the door, a grandmother, a daughter, and a grandson. And grandma came in and she said, first I need a seat. We gave her one of these seats and she sat down and she caught her breath. We gave her some coffee because we offer that too, if we have it. And she says, we're starting a book club, just our family. And we need to know what book we should start with. And they want to read 1 book a month as a family and have that as a time of, sometimes it's going to be a light book and sometimes it's going to be something that digs deep, but they wanted to have it as an opportunity to do something together. When people come through the door, they're looking to be engaged, and that's what we give them. We give them an experience that they probably didn't think that they would get because it's not the norm when they go other places. But we know that they'll come back, just if nothing else, to let us know how they enjoyed the book. Again, we sell books. We would like for you to buy books, but we at least want you to come in and just experience everything that we have to offer. And that's just being part of the community, being our kinfolk.
One of the questions I did want to ask you guys was, do you see yourself as more than a bookstore? But based on this interview, from beginning to now, I know why you would consider yourself more than just a bookstore. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time out to sit down and invite us into your lovely bookstore and do an interview with us. We really appreciate it. And before we end the interview, how can people get in touch with you, your website, your location, and your social media so they can follow you?
Sure. So again, it's Kindred Thoughts Bookstore. We're located at the Arcade, and that's at 1001 Main Street, Suite 8. So that's on the first floor here in Bridgeport. Our phone number is 475-282-9050. And you can come in and you can experience us, but you can also go online to kindredthoughts.shop. So that's .shop, S-H-O-P, as opposed to .com. And there you'll find millions of titles written by people from all walks of life. And you can either order your book and have it shipped directly to you at home, or you can have the book shipped here to the bookstore and then you can pick it up here. And as far as social media is concerned, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook, and we are Kindred Thoughts Bookstore.